Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of WholesomeHammer, where we explore the hobby, the game, and the lore of Warhammer 40k. We're your hosts, Nurgle Snurgle and BlushingNoiseMarine. This week, we're joined by our very special guest, Jarrett, the Blood God himself. We'll be chatting about the Traitor Primarchs, their stories, their lore, and everything else. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne. Hi everybody, I'm Jarrett, or as some people know me as TeamBloodGod, and I'm here to talk about some Primarchs. All my favorite ones have, absolutely.
Are they all your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, depending on which ones we're talking about.
Besides Angron,
I was about to say,
favorite?
does anyone love Lorgar? That's a hot take right there.
No, Lorgar can go to beeping beep beep.
Censoring himself. Good.
Yeah, I'm trying. I work in kitchens, so censoring myself is hard.
Okay. Why do people dislike Lorgar so much?
Well, because he's the reason everything happened. Like the whole Horus heresy, everything's Lorgar's fault. Everyone likes to say it's Magnus's fault. No, it's 110% Lorgar's fault.
So,
but
when
for
they
like
say...
the wimpiest reason, like that's the problem with Lorgar. Is it's like, like he's just like he wanted to worship the Emperor as a god, and then the Emperor's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. And then he's like, fine,
Dad,
I'll go find my own gods.
Yeah, actually, it was Erebus and Corphaeron going, "Hey, man, if the Emperor doesn't want to if you don't want to worship him, we know some people that would love your worship. Come with us. We'll show you this really cool crack in reality. We're gonna go through and see some cool people."
They took him through the crack.
Well, first he sent through some of his own guys, and they came back more than they were before.
More cracked.
Yeah, a little less cracked, more Galvor back.
Some of them first possessed.
Yep, the first possessed ever to become possessed.
Oh.
Yeah, they're really, really, really good. They're so cool.
The possessed.
Yeah, the first ever possessed, known as the Galvorback for the word bearers, were actually really, really, really well described and talked about in the books. Just wonderful, wonderful read.
What's the time frame for a possessed?
Time frame?
Like, can they live forever, or do they become more possessed?
I mean, from what I understand, it differs from legion to legion and possession to possession.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought that maybe they have like an expiry date. Like, you can only be 3 warp years as a possessed, and then you just blow up.
Well, I guess what happens is, just like the Eighth Bound, you eventually have both of the souls. If, like, you have the human soul or the Space Marine soul, and you have the possessed or the possessors inside of its body, and as they war amongst each other, sometimes they can become destroyed and turn into a gigantic mutated spawn. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, they can also entwine their souls to make one new being, where the demonic soul and the human soul become one, which is what you get the exalted Eighth Bound are.
Oh, and they're in so much control that's why they don't get all the tentacles or become a spawn.
Exactly. They've both souls have been married together as one to create a brand new being. And you'd probably see that with the other legions, depending on what demon possessed them.
But we're here to talk about Primarch.
Let's talk about the Primarch.
I think we have to start where it ends with the 20th Legion, Alfarius.
Alfarius and his silent brother Omagong. So how much do you guys really know about Alfarius and Omagong?
I mean, how much does anyone know about Alfarius and Omagong?
It's probably the one legion out there that is completely up for speculation. There's so many fan theories about the two, what their ideas were, what their plans were for the Horus Heresy. I have a couple of theories myself. But yeah, there's not a lot much known about the Alpha Legion. A lot of it's been described from secondhand accounts. Like, even their meeting of how the two Primarchs came to be is a very big mystery. I remember the first time I ever read about them, during the Scouring, when all of the Primarchs were set into the warp by the Chaos Gods, when the Emperor was trying to create them in his secret palace underneath the mountain. It was said that Alfarius' soul was twisted and torn apart into 2 beings. So one was actually supposedly stayed behind with the Emperor and secretly traveled with him across the galaxy through the Crusades, whereas the other Alfarius was shot halfway across the galaxy onto an unknown planet.
And that other half happens to be Omagong?
Yeah.
So do you think Omagong was like scouting on Alfarius?
That I can't really say for sure because it's only one of the theories.
Is that also the reason why Alfarius is almost half the size of a regular Primarch?
Yeah, he's actually supposedly one of the smallest out of all the Primarchs in height, where Vulcan was the highest, Alfarius and Omegon were the shortest ones, and were almost on par with the Marines of their own legion, which is one of the reasons why they never wore a ostentatious armor or anything bedecked with jewelry or iconography stating that I am the leader of this legion. They actually kind of wore armor that was very similar to their rank and file officers, so they could hide amongst their men. Ergo, the reason everyone would say, well, who are you? I am Alfarius. Every member of the legion would say that, even Alfarius himself, and you'd never know.
Is that all they knew? What to say?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, in introducing themselves or someone asking who they were, that was their go-to thing. It was always, I am Alfarius.
I think it was even
so tiresome after. Come on, let's have a real conversation.
I think within the Legion, they know how to identify each other's voices. So the way they say I am Alfarius is to anyone outside of the Legion, it sounds exactly the same, but they notice
it's like a
slight
passcode.
Yeah, literally
cadences of the voices
is ever so slightly different, and they can identify each other that way.
Apparently there's actually been a couple of people that could tell the difference in the novel Legion, where you actually get to see a little bit of the story of Alfarius and Omegon play out. Omegon is in there, and there's people noticing that when they're watching Alfarius, his stature changes, or his the way his stance changes, even the cadence of his voice or his mannerisms start to change back and forth. And some people notice that this isn't the same guy we're talking to. Even Dorn, he storms into a room in another story where he looks at Alfarius and goes, "You're not Alfarius. Where the hell is Alfarius right now?" "Of course I'm Alfarius." "No, get him out here right now. I know you're not Alfarius." Not even realizing that he's actually talking to Omegon, the other Primarch, thinking that he's just a rank and file officer.
Did anybody suspect Omegon to be a Primarch?
I think a couple of people did. I know that's what Alanius Pius, who actually found out, he was one of the Perpetuals in the stories, he found out that Omegon was real. And there may have been a couple of Primarchs that had suspicions, but it was never actually fully clarified how many people knew that Omegon actually existed. It's even some of their legionaries would have their faces surgically altered to look exactly like Alfarius, so you wouldn't even know. Which is why there was such a big theory that Alfarius was still alive after Dorn.
Damn it, Dorn.
Unfortunately,
I was gonna say, I think the only thing that really doesn't hold up with that is that Dorn almost dies in that battle, and I don't think any other Space Marine would mortally wound Dorn.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he's probably wait a minute.
Yeah, Dorn
hurts more than what a Space Marine can do.
You're moving a hell of a lot quicker and a hell of a lot better than a regular old Space Marine.
Is he really
I know it's
stealthy and fast?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, he is very much. One of Alfarius' favorite weapons was the double-handed spear, and there's actually a really interesting story behind that. But when he was fighting Dorn, it was really clear to Dorn that he was fighting the true Alfarius, because you just said, BlushingNoiseMarine, if he was fighting a regular legionary, I have no doubt in my mind that he just would have been bodied completely. Just, who's next?
Yeah, I think that does happen. He kills all of the other Marines in the room, and then it's him and Alfarius.
It's showdown time.
But yeah, it even talks about in that one, Omegon knows when Alfarius dies because they have a shared soul. It's he could feel.
He feels it.
Yeah, he could feel, and I think that even kind of intimates that they could almost exchange feelings and ideas to each other, because they had such this because they shared a soul.
And that's also why. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's actually also, if you get into other fan theories, that whole splitting of a soul thing is also the theory as to why Fabius Vile can clone Primarchs.
Yes.
Is to split their souls?
Yeah, because they're part of the warp as well. Because they're also part of that whole energy. If you can collect portions of their soul and clone that as well. Fabius Vile has made clones that exude the aura loyalty that Primarchs exude, and you'd only be able to do it if they held the soul of the Primarch itself.
And he actually tried multiple times with all of the Primarchs. He even made a perfect copy of Horus, but he noticed that none of the Marines kneeled to him when they first saw him, because every Space Marine has this urge to kneel when they see a Primarch. They have that power over them. That's how strong their soul and their influence is. To not have that meant that they didn't have a soul. And then Fulgrim was the first one, that the copy that he made, that actually did do that to the Legion. Yeah. So it is possible to, if you can clone a soul, hypothetically, technically, any one of the Primarchs could come back if that's the case.
I always had a fun theory with Alpha Legion that they were actually triplets. Because like the Hydra is a triple head.
Yeah, the secret brother.
Yeah, the secret brother.
That'd be cool. But no, like one of the more interesting aspects of Alpharius and Omegon is also like they turn traitor because of an Eldar Farseer who shows them basically what 40k is. And they're just like,
they
that
show
is
them what'll happen.
So terrible. Like, it would be better off if humanity died.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why they turn traitor. Even in the last part of the book, Legion, when they're going about the ship killing all of the loyalist guardsmen there, he comes onto the captain and Alpharius levels his pistol at him. He goes, "Why are you doing this?" He goes, "For the Emperor." Bam.
But like, didn't the Farseer just show him what happens when you do go traitor?
Yeah, so the whole thing was like, if Horus succeeded, he would kill the Emperor, and then in like his massive shame and guilt, he would destroy humanity in like the wake of his like rage at like his own betrayal. So like that's what the Farseer shows Alpharius is like, if Horus succeeds, he will expunge humanity from the universe, which will then save the galaxy from the Chaos Gods.
Because the Chaos Gods feed on humanity's emotions and everything else. Whereas he also showed them the other side of that coin, whereas if the Emperor succeeded, he sits upon a throne worshipped as a corpse god, chaos runs rampant, and the entire galaxy is plunged into a bathing bath of blood where the laughter of Chaos Gods reigns over everything.
Did Horus know this?
Horus
Alpharius
didn't
don't
know
say
this.
nothing to nobody.
Yeah. They don't say nothing to nobody. But couldn't
they have helped the whole thing?
Well, that's the whole Alpha Legion
and like,
thing.
Why
is
is
they
this Farseer talking to?
Because they were part of a cabal. They were his. If I remember his name correctly, it was. It's escaping me at the moment, but it was a cabal of aliens from across several different races that had the ability to see portions of the future, and they had the Perpetuals working for them. They brought the Alpha Legion to them using Elanius Pius, and they said, "Look, this is what's going to happen if you don't make this decision and work with us." So Alpharius made that decision, but I think later on, Omegon changed his mind. Because there's several moments in the Horus Heresy series where things happen where Omegon has like rescinded Alpharius' orders or poses Alpharius to make an order to allow a loyalist ship to get through. I think Alpharius wanted the Emperor to succeed.
But Omegon wanted him to fail?
Sorry, other way around.
Okay.
Omegon wanted the Emperor to succeed, whereas Alpharius wanted Horus to win. He even confronted Omegon one time and asked him, "Why'd you let that ship get away?" And I think he pulled a really quick one and said, "Well, some of our operatives might be on that ship, you know? They're like, we've snuck some of our guys in with like the Raven Guard and these guys. It would be a waste to fire upon the ship and we could have our men get in, you know, get inside and know what's going on." So meanwhile, he's sweating bullets.
So when is Omegon gonna step up and take over the Legion?
Well, he does, because Alpharius dies, and then he like the scene
he dies.
after Alpharius dies, Omegon
Spoiler
is like
alert,
on
what?
the.
I knew about Alpharius. I didn't know about Omegon's dead?
No, Omegon's not dead. So the scene afterwards,
that's what I mean.
Omegon like is on the bridge. I can't remember the Alpha Legion's flagship.
But if these Space Marines were made from Alpharius' gene seed, would it not be the same as Omegon's gene seed?
Technically, yes.
So technically, he is the Primarch of that Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Omegon then like Horus is like communicating with the ship, and he just like walks up, and Horus is just like, am I talking to the Primarch? And Omegon's like, I am Alfarius. So he just like takes the mantle of Alfarius and like,
oh, I would have taken that as a yes.
so he like becomes Alfarius in title effectively. So like Alfarius is dead, but Omegon is Alfarius.
Old Alfarius is dead.
Old Alfarius is dead, and Omegon has taken the mantle of Alfarius.
Interesting.
And then he just disappears.
But that's even partly why like the Alpha Legion are the only Legion that don't go into the Eye of Terror.
Yep. They do not go in there. They actually go all throughout space and do raiding attempts to get any supplies they need.
So where are they at now?
They're like
everywhere?
Across every system. Like they have like raiding ships. They have operatives everywhere. Like it's completely unknown the like extent of the Alpha Legion.
They have like sleeper cell guardsmen that they'll send back to the Imperium, and 10 years later, after they've moved up in rank and become like a file officer, and now they're in an office sending out messages to the Imperium, they'll get reports, and suddenly this one word in the report seems very odd. And they notice another word in the report seems odd, and they start looking back through all the reports, and suddenly all the words to mix together and look up, and it just says, "Wake up, the Hydra calls." And next thing you know, they're like, "Huh?" Walking down to the bowels of the planet, activating the reactors and saying, "Hail Hydra."
What do you think their ultimate goal is?
At this point, I think nobody knows, honestly. Like, they're the most mercurial. Like, they don't really support the Chaos Gods. They don't really support the Imperium. They just kind of go and... Yeah.
Yeah, they're just disturbing everyone's crap, going around and poking at it for a bit.
Yeah. Like, of the Chaos, like, of any of the Space Marine, like, loyalist trader, they're the most, like, inscrutable. Like, are they supporting the Xenos? Who knows?
And they'll fight on both. They'll fight on both sides. They've been
supporting it.
Yeah.
Will they encourage it? Like, will they make war just to make?
Well, they would more so get other people to start a war, and then they would like support the side they want to win.
Yeah.
Or both sides.
They've done that too. They have absolutely done that too. They've supported both sides in either way to complete an ends to a goal that they need. But you'll never know what it is.
So much chaos.
Now, on the other side of the machinations of Alfarius is the pure blunt force trauma of Angron.
Oh, my boy.
Honestly,
my boy,
you gotta drink your blood juice there.
Gotta have a little glass, sip of water to get ready to talk about this guy. Like, if there's any Primarch I could talk about all day, it's Angron. From the fact that they are my favorite Legion, the World Eaters. He's my favorite Primarch story-wise. It's probably one of the saddest stories in my opinion, in the entire 40k setting for what happened to him and what he had to go through and still has to go through throughout the entire lore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's the most
do you want to do like a quick rundown? Like, say if you met someone that never knew who Angron was, how would you explain his story?
Tragic. An absolute tragedy. That's his complete story as far as I'm concerned. Like, out of all the Primarchs, Angron got handed the worst deal. From landing on a planet and not even being able to take it over, but right off the bat being captured by traitors and poisoned and thrown into pits to fight people. He was
poisoned.
Yeah, the people on Nuceria that captured him used some kind of needle gun with a toxin that was actually able to knock the Primarch out. And when he woke up, he was in a pit with, I think, 50 other combatants, and around the floors, this acid was starting to flow up onto the dais and up these stairs. And the crowds wanted them just like in old, the Roman Colosseums, have these people fight to survive for their entertainment. And Angron did everything he could to not have to kill anybody, but once they got to the final top plinth and the acid had come right to the very edge, he finally had to make that choice and kill people. And he won eventually. Yeah.
Did they talk about like his first kill?
Yeah, his first kill, I think he grabbed an old man and broke his neck and then threw him into the acid so that he wouldn't feel any pain. He never threw people into the acid. He executed them in ways that, by his standard at that point, would have been a mercy in comparison to like melting in that gigantic vat of acidic sludge. There was so many people that
By
melted
breaking
in
their
it. It went
necks.
from green to like this sludgy, purplish red kind of color after a while.
So he definitely, like, wanted honor killing, or, like, he gave mercy.
In the beginning, yes.
In the beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When did that change?
That changed after several years of living on Nuceria as a slave and fighting in the pits. He had gotten a reputation for being a brutal killer in the pits. They actually named him Lord of the Red Sands, Angron Valkyr, the Red Angel. No, actually, no, sorry. The Red Angel was an affirmation by his legion. But after a while, just like the story of Spartacus, he ended up meeting up with an individual named Animaeus, and he taught him the ways of the pit and how to be an honorable warrior and what they went through in these gladiatorial fights. And after seeing a lot of his, what he would call brothers and sisters as the gladiators, fight and go through their struggles and the nightmares they would go through, he would actually use his power without even realizing it. And ironically, Angron's power was to remove the pain from others and take it upon himself and soothe them. In the book, Angron, he lies down with one of these slaves, and as he's going through night terrors, he lays a hand upon his shoulder, and he sees everything this boy sees, like the bloodshed, sprays of blood in the arena, the axe falling, heads flying past him, and just screams of victory and like glory. And he takes all that away from him and allows him rest while Angron takes on that pain. And then every night afterwards, he would lay down with all of the gladiators, almost like this gigantic, big, muscular cuddle session, and he would just take all of their pain away and all the stresses that they would go through.
A muscular cuddle session.
Best way I can describe it. Just
the
a
most
bunch of
Roman of cuddling.
Yeah. Just a bunch of thick dudes and thick chicks just lying down. They're just like,
Thick dude, thick chicks.
Oh, yeah. And then, with Angron, after all that had happened and he'd risen to like Spartacus did, champion of the pits, someone that people wanted to come see all the time, they teamed him up with Animaeus, and they had to fight what was called the cadre, which were two fighters that were imbued with the butcher's nails. And on the planet of Nuceria, the butcher's nails were a punishment for gladiators that didn't do as they were told. They were turned to a mindless freak and just unleashed in the pits. Angron beats them with the help of Animaeus, and then the crowd's like, let's see these two legends of the pit battle out right here. Angron, kill Animaeus. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not killing my best friend. I've had enough of this whole game that you high riders play, watching us murder and kill each other. It stops here. He throws his sword down and says, I will not kill him. So the crowd just starts chanting, nails! Nails,
oh my God.
nails, nails, yeah. And in the book Angron, afterwards, this is being told from the outward perspective of one of his legionaries, the librarians that went inside of his mind, and his memories become foggy and indistinct with like moments of pain, being chained on a wall, and then just red everywhere, and someone screaming his name like inches away from his face, and the crushing of a skull on the ground.
This is Angron.
Yeah. Next thing he knows is Angron wakes up in the cage, chained to the wall, and he just feels the pain of the nails surging through his body, because what these butcher's nails do is they're a cortical implant that's inserted into the back of the brain where a small section is removed, and they're drilled in and hammered down. And what they do is they cut off all emotion, all happiness, all joy, all pleasure. Everything about you is ripped from you and taken away and replaced with this numbing rage, this need to kill and slaughter and destroy everything around you. And when you do, they release endorphins into your brain, kind of like a high, and they ride that high. So the only time that these individuals feel any type of joy is when they're killing. And if they're not killing, it stimulates the pain receptors of the brain and shoots agonizing pain through their entire body. And Angron suffered through this for weeks. At the same time, hearing the guards outside of his cell talk about how he killed Animaeus. And it was said that Angron screamed for 8 days and nights without stop in an absolute wail of agony and pain for what he had done, to the point where he actually started coughing up blood.
Did he know that he killed Emma?
after listening to the guards, yeah, he did.
Oh, he didn't, but not at the time.
Not at the time, because he was going through this like blood drunk haze fury after the butcher's nails were incorporated into his body.
Wow.
Yeah, and then after that, he staged a revolt, just like Spartacus. All the gladiators, all the gladiators on Nuceria followed him. They fought against the High Riders. They destroyed them at several major battles, and at the very, very last battle they were going to have, just like Spartacus and his people did in our actual time, on top of a mountain, the Emperor shows up and wants Angron to join him. And Angron's like, no. Why the hell would I go with you? You're not, like, you may say you're my father. These are my people. These are my brothers and sisters, and I'm going to die with them. I'd rather die with them than go up to your spaceships in space and go wherever you may. So unlike every other Primarch where the Emperor respected their wishes or did a test or challenged them to something or did something to convince them to come to his side, he just goes, all right, goes back to his ship. And at the exact moment when they're about to go into battle, he teleports Angron to his flagship.
So the society, Nuceria?
Yeah, Nuceria.
Was it kind of set in like a Roman-esque time, like where they didn't have their own space marines or guns or anything like that, so they were living in a civilization that was quite far behind?
The way it was described,
so when Emperor came in the ship, were they just like, what is that?
From what I could tell, they didn't know that he was up there. He was just, his ships were in orbit, and the Nucerians had no idea, because from what I gathered in the book, the Nucerians were somewhere in like a Roman / flintlock age era. Mm-hmm. So it was very Romanesque, but they had flintlock technology and stuff like that.
I think there was some relics, because like the butcher's nails are like a relic. Yes. Like there's like, so it's like a mix of like a devolved society that has some technology, but they don't know how it works necessarily. Or they know how to use it, but they don't know how it works.
So where'd the butcher nails come from?
The people in Nuceria, their butchers would create these implants based off of the original relics, just like the World Eaters, warpsmiths, not warpsmiths at the time, they're tech marines. They were trying to create another version of the butcher's nails as well by copying Angron's, and actually several of them failed in the attempt of making them. Mm-hmm. And now they have the ones that are just like Angron's. Yeah, it's really sad.
And I guess even the sadder part is like most of the World Eaters take the butcher's nails so they can feel closer to their Primarch.
Yeah.
And then when they take them, it's just pain and suffering.
Yeah. They thought that even Karn, he would argue with some of the former captains and tell them, if we were able to walk the path of our father, we would know him better. Like right now, we don't. He's a raging monster, but we can change ourselves to that path. Even though one of the other captains is like, we don't have to do this. Like, look at him. He's a broken man. Like, when's the last time you felt the need to kneel in front of Angron? That's another thing. None of them ever felt that. When they met Angron, they did not feel that overwhelming urge to kneel in front of him either.
Is that disrespectful, though?
I think it more so speaks...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it more so speaks to like how broken Angron was.
So like, people just feel bad for him.
Well, even just, I don't even know if it was necessarily pity. It was just like, there was not a lot left to like love.
Yeah.
I can fix him.
Literally, that's what all his captains are. They're like toxic girlfriends with a toxic like boyfriend. You know what I mean? They're like, they're like, I can make him feel better. I can make it all right.
I'll just implant these in my head and it'll make him fine. We'll be okay. 10 minutes later,
we'll all just be in the
yeah, we can have the nails together.
Yep.
What's the woman captain's name?
Oh, Latara Saren, basically the baddest ass chick in the entire Warhammer 40k series. She's amazing. Even she's the captain of the flagship of the World Eaters, the Conqueror, and she is one of the coolest characters in the entire series. As far as I'm concerned.
Angron should go for a date.
I'm pretty sure they probably had at some point. One of my favorite quotes in the novels was she gives Angron crap from up in orbit about what he's doing on the planet. He looks at her on the display screen. He goes, "You know, Latara, you're pretty brave to speak to me that way when you're miles away from me." She's like, "Hit the teleporter. Come on up. We can talk about it if you like." She's the only person that would give them shit. Tell them off. Angron comes storming onto the deck, middle of the captain's quarters. She looks at him. "Why are you getting mad on my command bridge? Get out."
This is my sanctuary, and you are killing my vibe.
Yep. Oh, she was great. She was just as vicious as any world eater, too.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about Angron?
I mean, I could go further into like when he became a demon Primarch and everything. I can talk about what he's
Which
at
one do you
right
like
now.
more? Do you like Primarch or Demon Primarch?
Honestly, I really like Primarch Angron because, like, even after like, there's so much about him. Like continuing on after all this stuff happened to him, and he was finally in the Emperor's legions and leading his own legion. He still hated the Emperor. And the first opportunity that it came up, like Horus had to do a little bit of convincing for each of the other Primarchs to join. He was like, "Hey, you want to kill Dad?" Angron's like, "Yep."
I've been waiting.
Yep. Been waiting. Waiting for this day. Let's go. Okay, so we're now Horus like, "Okay, so we need to purge any of your men from your legion that you think would follow the Emperor. Are you okay with this?" "Yep, let's go." Gets him a list. "You had that ready to go, didn't you?" "Yep, I did."
And Angron's got a list.
Oh yeah. And then from that point on, during the Horus Heresy, after the Isfahan massacre, him going down, murdering all of his loyalist followers, and then for whatever reason, Horus telling him and Lorgar to team up and just go across the entire Macragge sector, not Macragge sector, but the Ultramarine sector, and destroy every planet they found along the way. Because their main goal was to head towards Macragge and have this massive battle there and try to stop the Ultramarines from getting involved in the fight. Because Horus's major plan was, I have to get rid of the 3 legions, and then I have to stop Rabute, because those are my biggest threats. So what does he do? Sends Angron and Lorgar.
Mm-hmm.
And going down this path, Angron is just attacking every single planet, and Lorgar is getting upset because he wants to get to Ultramar as quickly as possible to do what needs to be done. And Angron's like, "No, we need to kill everybody along the way. They're all the enemy. We need to just wreck everyone." And they're falling behind schedule. And eventually they almost had a small civil war of their own.
So is Angron a perfectionist?
Yes, when it comes to killing, what was the quote?
Why they call those for people who game, but they need to like go through every quest, open up every chest.
Yes.
Completionist.
Oh yeah, when it comes to destroying a planet, he is a full-on completionist.
This bug, dead.
There was a quote in one of the audio dramas where it was said Lorgar would be happy erasing every single monument that venerated the immortal emperor, enslaving the populations, and making sure his entire crew were fattened with meat from the populace.
Mm-hmm.
Angron's way of war was far more deadly. He didn't want to leave a broken husk of a planet for the Emperor to find. He wanted to leave a grave world full of silent cities and 1 million bones bleaching in the sun. And that's
8 million, you mean?
Yeah. When I heard that, I was like, that's metal as hell. That's just so metal right there.
I wonder why Angron fell to corn.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my personal favorite books was The Butcher's Nails, where him and Lorgar are about to have a fight back and forth, and the Dark Eldar intervene. They attack their vessel, crippling them for a short time. Angron gets really upset, starts trying to kill the Eldar, boards one of their ships, murders a bunch of them, and they go back to their main vessel, the Conqueror, and he wants to go after the Eldar. Lorgar's like, "No, Angron, we need to stay on task and go to Ultramar." It's like, "No, do you not want to kill these Xenos bastards that dared attack us? Come on, Lorgar, vengeance, taste that word, vengeance." And Lorgar's like, "All right."
Did he just like pinch it at the top of his nose, like, and close his eyes? Like,
Kind of, yeah. I more see him as like doing the whole, like the meme where he puts his 2 hands together by his lips and goes, "Okay, Angron, we'll play this game by your rules for now. So after some searching, they manage to coax the Eldar back out into fighting them, and they bring their main vessel out. Lord Tyrosaren fires the Ursur's Claws, which is the main battlement on their ship that they use to drag other ships in, almost like a harpoon. They get it. They launch their boarding pods, and Angron and Lorgar are in one of these pods. They get inside the ship, and they're just massacring the Eldar, having a field day. Just for the first time ever, Angron fighting with one of his brothers like he was in the pits, blocking for one, attacking for the other. Lorgar described it as almost being like a symphony of war with his brother. He'd never seen Angron
the
fight
conductor.
like that. Yeah. Finally, they make their way to the command dais where the Eldar are. Like the major force of them have collected there because they know they're coming. And all they hear is as they see a chain axe coming through the bulkhead of their door, and it makes a triangle. This boot comes through, and straight up, like you guys say, the Kool-Aid man Angron comes walking through with Lorgar in tow. They start hacking and slashing. Lorgar puts up a force field, and they address the Dark Eldar, and he's mentioned something after being knocked off his throne that Lorgar notices. So they go back into the fight, they battle it out, they knock this guy down, and just as Angron's about to kill him, the Eldar says to Lorgar, 2 monkey god princes? There's only supposed to be one of you. The one
Monkey god princes?
Yeah, the Eldar refer to humans as monkey, a kind of derogatory way to say that we're just apes.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes, there was only supposed to be one, the one to become the blood god's son. He'll never be given the chance this night. And then Lorgar gets this look on his face, like, the blood god's son. Looks over at Angron. No way. And then Angron just kills the Eldar, but Lorgar's like, wait, can I ask him some questions? And there goes his head. Okay, cool, let's go.
Did Angron even acknowledge that he was called Blood God's son?
Nope. Not even. Not a chance. And after that, Lorgar started scheming up until the book Betrayer, where all of his scheming and predictions and finding this out leads him to find a way to turn Angron into a demon prince. Mm-hmm. And that's where his saga as the Primarch ends, back on the homeworld of Nuceria. I could go more, but...
but then we wouldn't get to our next one, Fulgrim.
Fulgrim, the best Primarch.
Okay, Laura, BlushingNoiseMarine, you start off Fulgrim and tell us why he is the best. He is perfect in every way, and why we should follow the book of Fulgrim.
Fulgrim is perfect because Fulgrim is what should happen and does happen when you create a super being. Like, if you create a bunch of demigods, Fulgrim is like the most logical conclusion to that. Like, above all of the other ones, Fulgrim is like such wasted potential and like knows it. Like, well, we talked about this on the podcast before. Fulgrim is the only Primarch who like peacefully is like elected leader of his world. Like, he's the only one who doesn't conquer it. There's no bloodshed. He just like, he solves problems until people are just like, you know what, maybe this guy should be in charge.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he takes this backwater mining colony and like turns it into like a cultural center, like
a freaking Eden of tech.
Yeah, like he turns Chemos into like this like super progressive society from like the dregs being like a subsistence mining colony where everyone was eating like algae and like starving.
Yeah. Oh god, starch powder, frick. We're just gonna take our populace and turn it into starch and eat them.
Mm-hmm.
Like he of all of the Primarchs like actually wanted like humanity to like progress. Like, he didn't really love the idea of the Crusades. Like, from the very beginning, he's like, war is not his thing. He does not have, like, he's good at it, but he doesn't want to do it. Like, when... He always wanted to be diplomatic about everything. Yeah, like, he, the first few books of the Heresy, like, where he finds the Lair Blade is this, like, human society that is like integrated with Xenos and is like accepting, and like Fulgrim is like super into it, and that's also where Fulgrim learns about chaos. and like learns that there's another way of dealing with chaos, which is like actually dealing with it, not just like pretending it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And
It's not there.
yeah, so like Fulgrim sees this whole like potential future for the Imperium, and then just like, you know, I can't remember. I don't think he steals the lair blade, but someone steals it for him.
No, he definitely, if I remember correctly, he goes into the chamber and picks up the blade, and the demon inside of it talking to him, he actually thought it was his own inner voice, like monologuing to himself. So like, that's a great idea. Yeah, it's a great idea.
I'm so smart.
You are really smart. Oh, thank you.
So he like steals the blade and then like starts using it, and it like, you know, every time he kind of starts to like, you know, maybe start to question his own actions, he just like, the blade like pulls him away from it.
You're doing great.
Yeah. But he already had, like, Angron hated his father, but Fulgrim hated the Imperium. So, like, you know.
Yeah. He hated the idea.
Yeah, like, he hated this, like, oppressive, like, just, like, utilitarian, functional society. Like, the whole idea of, like, compliance. Like, Fulgrim almost had, like, a Tau appreciation for, like, nuance and diplomacy. And... you know, like the Emperor's Children were known for like, when that didn't work, they would just like eviscerate a population. Yeah. But like, it wasn't the first option. Like Fulgrim didn't like waging war. So like he came in with like doubts about the Emperor. He had like, you know, he didn't feel great about like there's even early conversations where like Fulgrim is like talking to Horus and is just like, are we doing the right thing? And Horus is like, of course we're doing the right thing. And this is like before Horus has like even contemplated the heresy.
He questioned what is the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, his whole deal was he thought every situation, no matter how bad it was, could be solved diplomatically, until the book Fulgrim in the Horus Heresy. He was faced with a situation on a planet where no matter how charismatic he was, no matter what he did, the population still did not want to follow the Imperial rule, and he was forced to use, well, force. And that's definitely, I think, where it started, where he started to really hate the whole idea of what the Imperium was, that things could not be solved in a peaceful, diplomatic manner. And
yeah, like he's the one that kind of like, you know, questions the tyranny of like the Emperor and like the tyranny of the Imperium. And like the fact that there's no room for any type of dissent or like differing opinions. So
he didn't accept like the one single path.
Yeah, and like even like you know, his legion was like encouraged not to just be like martial warriors, like almost like the White Scars. Like they were also encouraged to like have other hobbies and passions and like refine themselves and be like, you know, multifaceted individuals. Like Lucius, for example, is like almost like made fun of because the only thing he cares about is sword fighting. Yeah, and it's like he's like mocked for it because like, it's like, oh, you're only good at that one thing.
He's in the pit fighting, practicing. Meanwhile, the guy's up in the rafters with a painting easel going, oh, nerd.
Right? Like they're like writing poetry.
What the Emperor's children have?
Poetry, art. Yeah. Writing. Like they hung out with the Remembrancers. Like they were big on like actually engaging with humanity. Like they learn from each other. Like Lucius has like a crush on someone, like, and a few I think Saul Tarvitz like regularly just hangs out with regular humans.
Yep. They found him fascinating.
Yeah, they like wanted to learn about like, I think like the Emperor's Children were also aware of like what they had lost by becoming Space Marines. Because they dealt so much with humanity and like were curious, they realized that they'd lost this like emotional and artistic depth.
Or that was kind of stolen from them.
Yeah, and again, it kind of fed that like bitterness and resentment that like they could never, like, becoming an Astartes made it harder for them to achieve the perfection that they so wanted.
Yeah, and in some cases it made some of them actually quite pompous, like Lord Commander Eidolon, who would go for pride and honor above everything else, no matter what. Putting his own men in danger didn't matter. Some of them just like would really focus on that level of perfection where it became almost like an obsession.
And like Fulgrim wasn't really renowned for like being much of a leader. Like he was very like laissez-faire. Like the Emperor's Children, even before Fulgrim like abandoned them, were like pretty splintered and just off doing their own things most of the time. Like it was very rare to bring the whole legion together.
Yeah.
Because Fulgrim just like again didn't care that much about like fighting the crusade. He was more okay with people just like having their own pet projects.
Yeah. The one thing he voiced was that I want you to be perfect in your own way. We will strive to be the best legion that we can be, but I also want you to be the best that you can be in whatever you do.
Yeah.
See, each time I keep hearing more and more about the Emperor's Children, the more I'm leaning towards them.
They're underrated.
I really like that philosophy.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of ironic that they went from a people that wanted to share and create and just enjoy everything to being what they are now, completely selfish and self-driven. Like, I want to experience everything at every cost to like that I can have in this universe, in this reality, like just every single thing possible to the extreme.
They mirror the corruption of Slaanesh as well. Like Slaanesh as a chaos god was like originally a god of like love and like care and concern who gets corrupted by the Eldar. The Emperor's Children are then
the original Slaanesh?
Yeah, like Slaanesh as like a concept is like the god of love.
Yeah. All the chaos gods are two sides of the same coin. They all have like, good and bad attributes.
Like Nurgle is the god of life. Yeah.
And restoration.
I love Khorne majorly because he's the god of not only martial prowess and strength, but truth. He'll never lie to you. Khorne will never lie to you.
And Tzeentch is like crossing his fingers and his toes and his...
Well, Tzeentch
is also like the god of like curiosity and knowledge and learning and like
ambition and creation, like things moving forward. And like, I can't remember where it was that I heard it, but Slaanesh was the ultimate expression of freedom. You're free to do everything and do whatever you want. Absolute true freedom. That I really like. That's cool.
So like it does make sense that they fell to Slaanesh because Slaanesh promised that like next level of everything, because that is what Slaanesh as a chaos god is. You know, like even the whole like the original Noise Marines, like in the Meraviglia, where they like are created effectively, like it's in pursuit of like this like higher form of sensation and like existence. They're trying to like transcend reality, and they do. And then like Noise Marines are basically like the embodiment of trying to perpetually push past like the limitations of like mortality to like experience something new.
Always pushing the boundaries. Wonderful. One of my favorites is a quote from a Warpsmith where he says, "It's not enough to just kill one individual, but when you can vibrate them to a point where their body evaporates into dust and breathe them in, taking in all of that person and what they are and leaving nothing behind but the memory of them in this galaxy. What more perfection could you ask for in that moment?" That's the kind of stuff they're into. Like they are snorting people like cocaine. Just that's some good human.
Like at this point, like in the 40K, like Emperor's Children are just like human Dark Eldar, depraved, slaving, like ruinous, raping, pillaging. But like where they start off from is like the reason they're called the Emperor's Children is before Fulgrim was discovered, they had basically like dutied their way to extinction. Like I think by the time they find Fulgrim, there's only 300 of them left. Because there was an issue with their gene seed. They couldn't create new Emperor's Children. So the Emperor was like, they had actually become a supra legion where like Emperor's Children would be in charge of like other legions, almost like miniature Primarchs, because the Emperor had such confidence in them.
Yeah, their ability
like
to
they're like next to the Custodes.
Yeah, like they had performed so well, but were also like diplomatic and nuanced and like intelligent about it, where like most of the other legions were not. So like in the heresy, they're the only ones that wear the like Aquila, the
Yeah,
like the sign of the Emperor.
That's that eagle talon with the wing on top of it. They're the only legion that was given the honor to wear that symbol.
I have to say, getting into Warhammer and learning about the lore and listening about the lore, Emperor's Children always threw me off that they were heretics.
Oh.
I couldn't follow, like, wait. But they have the Aquila, or
there's a
their
reason.
name is Emperor's Children.
There's a reason they did
bad
that.
guys. I get it. Yeah. I get it now. Yeah, I can see it now. But
even
at the time, my little brain could not catch up.
Do you know that even their battle cry has not changed? When they run into battle, they still say "For the Emperor" as they run into battle.
Which
do they
amazing.
say sarcastically?
I would assume so.
They're like mocking. I think they probably do it extra hard at Space Marines. They're like, loyalists, like, let's, because, they're also Emperor's Children, so they can, like, shout it at, like, 300 decibels. So
do they have, like, a power?
Some of them have...
like the Doom Siren is actually, like, a vocal amplifier that they use, like a flamer that just, like, is so powerful, it, like, melts people. Like the Blastmaster.
I can't wait till you get your codex. And they do it so well because there's so much potential that they can do.
Well, that's why, like, if you ever look
line.
at the like NoiseMarine models, like they have like these big things sticking out of their mouth. It's like those are sonic amplifiers that like allow them to scream. Like a Blastmaster, like you were saying, like turning people into dust. That's what a Blastmaster does. It's like so powerful, and it like. They can modulate at so many frequencies. They can literally find the like resonance frequency of a body and have it just like disintegrate itself.
And there's even some of them like some of them have it's a mutation. Some of them it's implant, it's a mutation, it's a gift from a chaos god. Because if I remember correctly, there's two characters in the lore that I like. Lord Commander Eidolon, he actually had a surgically implanted Vox emitter into his neck from Fabius Bile. He was technically like the first Noise Marine with the ever first like sonic attack. And then there's an amazing book, Laura, and I don't know if you ever heard it, but it's called Perfection. And it's an entire story that has to do with the Flawless, who are a sub-faction of the Emperor's Children. And there's a guy on there, his name's Vidar, described as this really big, thick Noise Marine with a gigantic, thick, muscular neck. Half of his body is encased in armor. The other half is just fully woven leather with spikes. And he has a little split in his chin right there. And if you ever seen the movie Blade 3, when he screams, it just goes and opens up to this gigantically wide void of a mouth, and he just yells at the top of his lungs and mists whatever in front of him. And as it closes, you see the dripping ichor acidic stuff come out, and he's like wiping across his face like, that was a perfect kill. Dude's like hardcore.
Like, I think you bring up Eidolon. I think he actually, like, he fights a Primarch at one point and doesn't die.
Yep.
Because of that, like, voice attack. Like, I can't remember which Primarch it is, but he, like, in a fight manages to stun a Primarch, and, like, he's so wounded he has to, like, retreat, but he's, like, one of the few Space Marines who's fought a Primarch and not died.
Yeah, because he had that.
I mean, he got his head cut off later, but...
Spoiler alert.
It's okay. He got it reattached and he was fine.
Fabius to the rescue.
Yeah. Yeah. He's still alive.
Fabius?
Oh no. Yeah. He's still the Lord Commander of the Emperor's Children.
Yep. And apparently he's also on Abaddon's Black Council. Same with Erebus.
I really hope if Emperor's Children get a codex, he gets a model.
Oh yes.
Next to your tiny base Lucy.
I want to see that rotten face bugger on the tabletop. I'd like to play with him, but I'd also like to kill him because he's the one character I loved and hated at the same time. He just drew that out of you.
Well, and his like heresy model is beautiful, so like I feel like 10,000 years of just depravity, he'd be pretty messed up.
I just want to see that stitch scarring right there across the neck. Just like, half of his face pretty, the other half just bleh.
Yeah. All right. I won't make us talk about Fulgrim the whole night.
But we could.
But the name. Oh, he's. We didn't even like talk about most of the things that he's done. But we got to bring it to the namesake of the heresy itself. the man with the plan, the
man with the plan,
Lupercal,
the head honcho, the star of the show.
Horus and his sons.
Man.
What do you do?
I mean, he did a lot of stuff. Surprisingly,
he's kind of just
like
the Giga Chad of the Primarchs is like kind of his thing. He's just he's like described as like if like Gulliman had both a personality and was also more Gulliman. Like he's like mega brain, charismatic, like also a fierce warrior. Like Horus is just like literally the reason why he's made the War Master.
He would be like a YouTuber, and his whole thing would be like public speaking and bringing charisma and confidence to.
Oh no, he'd be like the best president ever. He could like melt you with his words.
But simultaneously is like absolutely shredded and like you know.
Humble?
At the time, there was one time he was.
He's not humble.
Not anymore. Well, definitely not anymore.
Well, he's dead.
Horus went through a lot of changes throughout the Horus Heresy. Like his character developed quite a bit because he went from good Horus to better Horus to slightly off Horus to a dick to just a complete dick to the monster that he became at the end of the Horus Heresy. He changed so much. Laura, what was your favorite like rendition of him throughout the times?
I feel like right after the whole I can't think of it right now. Like when he gets the blade in him and he has to go through his whole
right, yes.
Like, and that's kind of the like peak of like best Horus into like
starts
questionable Horus of like he isn't quite sure of what he's doing and he's like everyone's manipulating him and he's like trying to figure out what's true and what's right, but then he also doesn't feel like perfectly right. Like there's a lot of doubt.
Yeah. Like when he was going through that whole thing, even his brother Magnus showed up and tried to convince him like, this is wrong. You're doing the wrong thing. And he still didn't listen. He was just like, nope, I made a decision. This is what I'm going to do.
Would you listen to Magnus? He's always wrong.
He does nothing wrong.
He does everything wrong.
Magnus kind of comes across as really cocky know-it-all, so yeah, I can see why he'd be like, no.
I feel like Magnus comes up, he's like, Horus, excuse me, I think you're not doing this right. You should be listening to me.
I've done the calculations on this, and the probability is not in your favor.
Meanwhile, Horus leans in and goes, didn't Dad tell you not to do psychic shit anymore?
Right?
He's like, actually, excuse me, leaves.
He's like, actually, I'm studying the Great Ocean. Be like, that just sounds like magic, but more complicated.
Yeah. I know what the Great Ocean is. It's the warp. You got like 50 names for it. You're not playing the trick.
Oh, do they call it the Great Ocean?
Yeah, there's a lot of names for it. The warp, the endless tide, hell, the Great Ocean, the realm of spirits.
The Empyrean.
All sorts of different stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, the Thousand Suns usually call it the Great Ocean.
Because they'd be swimming.
They're all dried up.
They go through their enumerations and see the tides.
It's the ocean and they're the beach.
Yeah.
That was funny.
See? But yeah, Horus, like, I don't know. What about you? What's your kind of favorite Horus?
I really liked Horus in the beginning when he was coming across as being the very diplomatic person. Like, when he was described as just taking up a room, like he had this glow to him, he was charismatic, he was diplomatic, he talked to anybody, he could win anybody over just with his words, and like his use of the Monovol. I loved his use of his special honor guard Monovol of all the captains as war dogs during all of his conversations, because just like Tarek Torgatin was saying to Loken, the War Master wants to come in and give these individuals a dressing down they'll never forget, because they messed up. It's very clear they messed up. They put all their forces onto the planet without any plan whatsoever. But he needs to come in and have them follow him loyally and willingly. He can't just come in here and throw his weight around like some kind of pompous individual. So we, the Monivul, give them the dressing down for him. We're his war dogs. We bark so he doesn't have to. And it was all played out by Horus in the end to have these captains get yelled at by his captains, and he wants that to happen, but still makes himself look like the diplomatic individual and bringing everybody together, saying like, nope, you're too harsh. They did their best. But Captain, they threw all their forces down there. And it's like, would you not throw your forces down there to save the people of the Imperium? Like, it makes sense to me. We can come up with a plan to fix this as soon as everyone left the room. Well done, guys. That was perfect. I love what you said to him right there. He was quivering in his boots. It was amazing. Good show, everybody. Good show. It was like, that right there was really cool to see him as that kind of individual, the person that the Emperor wanted him to be. He was the best out of all the Primarchs. He had the qualities of each one of them, all their best qualities, and shedded away all of the bad ones. Even Sanguinius said if it wasn't for his charisma, he probably would have been chosen. But of course, Horus would be chosen over him because he's just great at everything he does, no matter what. And that's even shown throughout the actual heresy, like them realizing that he is the superb tactician. He can turn anybody to his side, and he's also willing to do whatever is necessary, whether it be like in your face, I'm going to come right at you, or conniving and sneaky, sending in operatives to murder someone to get them out of the way. He was willing to do whatever it took to win. And even though he was the ultimate bad guy, I had a lot of respect for Horus in that sense because, you know, at the end of the day, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser, and you have to be willing to do what it takes to win that battle. And in a massive civil war like the Horus Heresy was, like, he was that close. He was so close. So close. I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for that one dude, whoever it was, that ran into the chamber and stopped him from just striking the Emperor down, and the Emperor seeing Horus for what he was and just doing the whole little laser beam to the head to kill him, Horus would have just destroyed everything.
Do you know what the original lore of the death of Horus was?
Sorry, what?
Do you know what the original death of Horus was?
Yeah, the original death of Horus
was a guardsman.
See, I've heard there's so many different theories about it, but I like the guardsman one the most. I believe it was a guardsman.
Like originally, like before the heresy was written, like before all of it, the lore, the kind of like the rumored death of Horus was like the Emperor and Horus had like fought each other to like their absolute like mortal wounding point. And it was like a single guardsman with a las gun like shoots Horus in the head, and Horus dies.
I actually never heard that one. I heard the one about that it was a guardsman that ran up and he stood between the Emperor and Horus and said, I will not let you kill the symbol of humanity, and draws a bayonet. And then Horus just uses his psychic powers to fillet this man alive in front of the Emperor, and that's what made the Emperor snap. And then there's even some stories saying that it was a guardsman, it was a commissar, it was Elanius Pius himself, it was a Terminator from the Blood Angels, it was some weirdo in gold armor that showed up. There's all sorts of theories about who that individual was.
Weirdo in gold armor?
Yeah, there's some theories that it might have been a custodian, but now the last book's coming out, and we get to find out who it was. And I'm excited.
I almost don't want to know. I like my guardsman idea.
I kind of want to reread all of the novels before I touch the Siege of Terra, because there's so much there. That's like, what, 6 books now? Oh, yeah.
Siege of Terra.
The Siege of Terra alone is 6 books. You have the Solar War, The Last Gate, Last Stand, Lost in the Damned, and I think the last one is now called The End and the Death, and it's like Sanguinius and Horus just going at it. Yeah, very excited. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when it's all like over and said and done.
I mean, it's so popular at this point. I feel like they'll just do what they did with 40K and just like keep adding on books.
Oh yeah, they will. Well, I mean, all the Primarchs seem to be coming back, and now with these advents of being able to be reincarnated, brought back to life, or put into your soul, been put into another body, or cloning, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see all the Primarchs, even Horus, come back. Because even though they say that Horus's soul was destroyed by the Emperor during that battle, like he reached into his body and just grabbed that thing and crushed it until it was dust in the wind. what a lot of people don't talk about is each one of the Chaos Gods still has a fragment of Horus's soul, and he lives within the warp in their realm, battling for them or doing duties for them. I think in the book, The Talon of Horus, you actually get to see one of these individuals, one of the Thousand Sons guys, and I think his name is Cassander Cain. No, Iskandar Cain. He actually gets to look inside the warp and sees each of these individuals. Like, one was fighting for Khorne on a battlefield leading his forces. Another was roaming through the mazes of Tzeentch. Another was like in the gardens of Slaanesh, partaking in every delight that they could find. And then he gets yanked back after seeing all of these individuals, knowing that Horus is technically still out there, so he could have those shards taken and formed back into a new body if Fabius Powell got a hold of them.
Damn.
Yeah. I'd love to see it.
That'd be pretty exciting.
Love to see it.
Well, we're getting... we've gone through 4. The next one is Conrad Kurz.
Oh, good old Kersey. One of my other favorite guys.
Do we want to save Conrad Kurz for part 2, or do we want to go into Kurz?
I say part 2.
Yeah, I'm down for part 2.
We've gone through half of them. Oh, not even half, because there's 9 of them. So
there's 9. So I feel like we got through 4, but we got through like 3 big ones.
Big ones, yeah.
Yeah, definitely 3 big ones.
Because like, what would you say? Like Conrad Kurz, Lorgar, and Perturabo are kind of like, eh.
So we have
evil
Batman.
Perturabo actually like.
Perturabo's a freaking Chad.
He actually does have some like kind of cool stories. Like the Iron Warriors are like, as a legion, get kind of pooped on, but like
they seem to, yeah.
I went from hating them to, after listening to their novels and listening about Perturabo, I have a massive respect for them to the point where I've actually painted an entire army of Iron Warriors just because of that. He's like, he carried the whole Horus Heresy on his back. If it wasn't for him, it never would have happened.
So he's the problem.
Lorgar kind of like flakes off a lot.
Oh yeah.
Mortarion just like, you know,
he's tricked.
Like Mortarion doesn't actually do a ton during the like heresy compared to the other Primarchs and the other legions. Magnus gets like broken so early on, and the Thousand Sons just kind of like flitter around, like trying to put Magnus back together.
He's Pooh Bear with his hand in the honey jar.
Oh gosh! After that,
and like,
the raging bat cracker.
So like, you know, Perturabo, like it's really like Perturabo, Angron, Fulgrim, Horus, and Alfarius are like the ones who actually make the heresy happen.
Yeah, they do.
Like Magnus and the Thousand Sons do not contribute a ton. Mortarion and the Death Guard do not contribute a ton to like actually getting to Terra. Conrad Kurz gets on his like own like soapbox with Vulcan and just like loses his mind. And Lorgar just like I don't know, has this whole feud with like Guilliman, and then they get stuck on the wrong end of the universe, of the galaxy.
Yep, I definitely say Perturabo is the one that has the next big gigantic arc for what he's done. Like, my God, the guy did so much.
Well, and he held the galaxy for Horus.
Oh yeah, he did. I mean, like, what was it? When they got to Terra, he basically destroyed the palace, said to Dorn, haha, I broke your house, and then left. I wrecked your toy.
In true Perturabo fashion.
Yes. He's a badass, but at the same time, he is such a petulant man-child. And he's just as dull as Dorn sometimes, but with more of an attitude.
It's like a angsty teenage Dorn.
Yeah, an angsty teenage Dorn. That encompasses his entire being right there.
But like Rogel Dorn has still... like. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no! Please go ahead.
So where like Rogel Dorn, I feel like has like the energy of like an 80-year-old arthritic old man who's just like, I'm gonna do things the way I do them, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. I feel like Perturabo's like, Granddad, I'm not getting respect for the way that I do things, and you just don't understand me and the way that like I want the world to work.
Yeah, I remember.
And the two of them are just like.
I remember specifically in the book of Perturabo that he never wanted to go to war. he wanted to make nice things. Like, his dad comes up and goes, I want you to lead an army. And he's like, no, I don't want to do this. I've been against this forever. I want to do stuff like this and this and this. And he's throwing pictures of like gazebos and cars and little houses at his dad going, I want to make shit, not wreck shit. Fine, I'll go destroy this city for you, but I'm coming back here and I'm building a gazebo. It's going to be a nice gazebo.
So we'll save those 5 for maybe part 2, but we'll have the Blood God back.
Oh, I'd love to come back. This was really fun. I was really enjoyed being on here with you guys.
Well, thank you so much. I think you imbued some energy. I have a feeling there's going to be some people maybe pick up some Horus Heresy novels after this.
I hope so. I really do. I've always
be like, oh, Blood God said that.
Yeah. I always recommend people getting into the series, whether it be the audio dramas, the shorts, or the full-on novels themselves. There's something I've always loved about the Warhammer 40k universe and the lore itself. It's a crazy, outlandish, stupid universe, but it makes sense and it works too. There's something in this for everybody, no matter what walk of life you're from. Like, very much like some of the other franchises out there, like Star Wars and let's say Halo or whatever one that you pick out there. They have their thing, but everything is kind of blanketed under this one. It has to be Star Wars. It has to be this. In Warhammer 40k, you have drama, you have sadness, you have happiness, you have hope, you have darkness, you have every aspect that you can think of, even loony, crazy stuff, from hardcore Marines kneeling and making an oath upon the Imperium to like save humanity, to orcs who believe things are, if something is real, it becomes a reality. There's so much to this universe, and I think that's what really just got me into it. And if I ever have the chance to push that on other people or give them the opportunity to try it out, whether it be from a book or a gaming aspect, I love that. I love this hobby. I love this lore so much.
This reminds me of what you just said about orcs. I saw a video recently. It was like a little animated thing, and it was 2 Space Marines are like trying to hold a point, and they've run out of ammo, so they're just yelling bang at the orcs, and the orcs are dying like around them, and they're just like, do they believe that there's bullets in the gun, so that's why they're dying? The other Marine is just like, don't say it too loud.
Hey, don't say it too loud, brother.
You just see this like rumble firing over the like coming up the hill, and it's like 6 orcs carrying another orc on top of them, and they're just going tank, 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 tank.
Like, they're not dying anymore. They're not dying.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I think I've seen that. I love that one. It's so good.
It's such a so yeah, you can have the silly with the serious, you can have the grim dark with the like hope, and I think like the Horus Heresy really provides that. Like, it provides such an insight into the grim dark of 40k, of like everything went wrong, of like, you know, but then also everything also was wrong. Like, there was so much bad and there was so much hope to fix it, and it just like smashes to pieces.
And then you have the universe is what it is right now, where no one's the good guy. That's another thing I love about this, about the lore, is that in every other genre, there's a good guy and there's a clear bad guy. Warhammer 40k, nobody is good. Not a single faction is the good guy. They're all good in their own perspective, but they're all evil at the exact same time for like the means to an end of what they want to do. I think the only ones you could say are probably the good guys, the orcs, so they're just looking to have a good time.
The Arbiter Ian is a YouTube creator. He very recently did a video on why every faction is bad. It's a great watch. And I think the only one that he said wasn't inherently evil was the Tyranids, because it's not clear if they have any type of like moral capability, or if they're just like a like natural predator to like organic life. And even then he was like, so there's evidence of intelligence and like moralizing that, like, you know, they probably know what they're doing is wrong. So yeah, no, everyone is bad. If you're listening and you're thinking, well, my faction isn't that bad. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Unless you're a Salamanders player, like, good luck. We're all evil.
What?
No, yeah, but even then, like, the Salamanders are like, just because you're like slightly more humanistic doesn't mean that you're not like Like they're still perfectly happy with like massive casualties and like just like the most like painful. Like they use fire. They they burn people to death. Like it's like they have a brutal version of warfare.
Yeah, when you really think about it that way, it's like, oh, we're good people. We're great people. Everyone's melting. You know, you could have just shot him in the head. Nah, it's so much more. You know, we're just making sure.
So no, your faction is bad, but that's part of the fun. And with that, I hope you'll join us for part 2.
I will definitely be here for part 2. I cannot wait.
And in the meantime, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided, both where you're listening from, and you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40K. And you can find your hosts on social media at Nurgle_Snurgle and at BlushingNoiseMarine. Until next time, bye-bye.
Ciao for now.
See ya.